Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Just want to welcome you to day 16 of the ERP Cloud Bootcamp review sessions. And we're going to start off today by looking at payments integration. And we are going to be looking through payments today and receipts tomorrow. Wednesday, we've got cash management. Thursday, Friday, we have what's that again? Debugging, which is I'm trying to convert the debugging back to testing. Yeah, testing, and then we have training and then the stuff for go live. So today let's have a quick look at the payments outbound interface, and also from payments we're looking at basically how to make payments to our suppliers. So that's the point of view where we're looking at payments from today. And payments is actually quite central in that it involves the invoice payments from Payables, and also payments also looks at the receivables in the area of settling the receipts. So those are the two parts that payments can link into. So today I'll be looking at the core of payments from the electronic payments perspective. And I'm going to start off with banks and the bank model, which we looked at a while ago. So banks will have a bank branch, and then this is within the trading community model or architecture. And then we have the bank account, which will is used by cash management. And then this is where we do our reconciliations and payments from. So for the modules, payables, receivables, and payroll. So today we're going to be looking at the various types of payments. We're going to look at the payment setup, and we're going to pay some invoices using the payment setup that we'll be creating. So let's get started. Two main types of payments. You have the quick payments or single payments, or what you call the manual payments as well. So these are the single payments. And then you have the payments, which is formed from the payment process request. So with the payment process request, you will it can be batched and it can be automated. And most people who make payments as payment processing would usually use the payment process request. So today we'll be looking at some of the details of the payment process request and how to create disbursement payments using forms like EFT, which is the electronic payments, and also any other type of payments out there. So with payment setups, there are a number of areas that you need to look at. So first area you need to look at is the connectivity, which is a successful transmission of the payment in a specific format. So you're looking mainly at your file, what's the file format that is required by the bank. There are certain steps that we need to go through to be able to do this. And so first, the XML output, if you're going to be using electronic, or it could be an e-text output. It could even be PDF, could be other formats, but the most common formats are text and XML. Those are the two common formats that you'll discover for your file format. So that's the outbound file that actually will go to the bank, and the bank will use that information to pay the supplier. And then you have the transmission method. So how is this going to be transmitted? And you will normally transmit using a protocol, whether it's your secured server, which is the SFTP server. It could be using maybe some tunneling configuration, where you will be connecting directly to the bank to be able to do that. And there's lots of other bits in the middle, encryption, security, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of technical stuff in the transmission aspect of payments. And then you have the system, payment system. What is the processing model you're going to be using? What's the transmission protocol that you'll be using? So all that is part of the payment system setup. And then you have your payment method. Your payment method, you'll be looking at the type, how are you going to make the payment? Is it going to be electronic? Is it going to be SEPA? Is it going to be wire? And the bank will normally give you these payment methods, and you'll be able to use that to build what the output file is going to look like. And then you have your payment process profile. Out of all of these, this is the key one that we will be looking at today. And the payment process profile is a required setup, and it's assigned to the payment process request, which we'll look at as well. And this manages the grouping of payments, payments that are due, all the different methods, systems, the transmission, everything goes, and the formats will be summarized within your payment process profile. So you create a profile that includes a variation of some of this stuff. So you would normally use the payment process profile, or PPP, to control the creation of payments and the payment file. So you have your document payable, which is your invoice. You have your payment process request, which is a job that will be run or submitted for processing that batch. We're going to be looking at that. You have a separate remittance advice, which you will create. You will also have things like your file payment register. You have your positive pay, that's if you're using checks. You have any regulatory reports that will come out of that as well, and also your payment document, which is if you're using checks, then you also need to use things like your payment document and the numbering for that. And then you have your payment process request, which is the grouping of all of this, which is what you will run based upon your profile. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run through the setup of all of this. Now, I tried to log into the server, the environment that was given to us. I think there is an issue with it, but don't worry too much about that. We're not going to let that stop us from doing what we need to do. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to use another environment. I'm not going to start all the setups, but I'm just going to go into it more from the payments point of view, and then we'll look at it from that aspect. So this is a new environment, another environment. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you actually how to actually create a user from this. So I'm going to go into, I'm going to create a user from an existing user. So in case you may need to use this environment, this is basically what you need to do. And so I'm going to log in, because the environment crashed over the weekend. It was inoperative, and Oracle had to kind of rebuild the server. So I'm going to go into users, and I'm going to find an existing user, FAS00, and I'm going to create a user based upon this user that already exists. So I'm going to go into action, copy user, and I'm going to create my user and call my user bill payers. So if you don't want to use this and this user, you can actually create your own user or use one of the one that already exists. So just showing this to you so that you can see that it's going to replicate all the different roles that a user already has. So my first name that I'm going to use is Bill, and surname is Payer. So bill.payer@gmail.com. Let's choose my own password. So that's one way in which you can very quickly create your user with some of these roles. If you want to copy a user, I just thought, let me just show you how to do that. And then you then need to go back in and then assign all the roles access as you would normally do. So that's a very quick way of creating a user, and then you assign the user to, when you convert the user into an employee. So you can do that as well. So while that's creating, what I'm going to do, I'm going to log in as FAS00 instructor. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a bank, another bank account. I know we've done that before, but we need to basically have a bank before we can actually start to make payments. So let's wait for this. So I'm going to go in and sign out. And then I'm going to select F. Let me just something FAS00 dot instructor. FAS instructor on this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to create my bank account. Again, this is revision for some people. This is probably a refresher for some as well. Let's create a bank account. So that's my user. I'm going to go in as go to my setup and maintenance. This environment is not as quick. Let me switch off my camera. Maybe that will give me some speed. Wait. So let me go into financials. And I'm going to go to cash management. And I'm going to create my bank account. So manage bank accounts. Okay, so I'm going to create my bank account. I'm going to use the US one. So branch name is New York. So that's the Bank of America, New York. So I'm going to branch number, account name is Acme Bank of America. Account number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. Let's make up the number, currency US dollars. And my legal entity is US1. I'm going to use US1 legal entity. So a few key things to note is that you want to select how you want to use the bank, payables and receivables, and we're going to select the business unit access. And we also will give it some of the account codes that we're going to use. So let's go to business unit access, and I'll give us the account codes. Business unit access. I can also put the account codes here as well, but I'm going to do it here just to show you. So remember that the bank is linked initially to the legal entity. And then when you transact at the BU level. So the business unit is going to be my US1 business unit. I'm going to use a cash account. So let's select the cash account. It's slow as well. Not sure there's that many numbers in there, but it's even taking a while to recognize the numbers in the list. So 11, I think the one I want is 101. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's the checking account. And then I'm going to look for the clearing account as well. Now I'll put that in the corresponding field for the cash clearing. So I think the cash clearing is the 501 account. I'll look at my list of values that should give me the list showing. So that's the cash clearing account. So now we can save this information. And what I'm going to do, going to create my payment format. My payment format. So the first of this step is my file format. So that's my payment format that I'm going to create. I will come back and show you these other parts because I'm going to use one that already exists. And then I'll show you why you need systems and transmissions. But let's get this to a point. So save and close. Okay, so that's done. Let's go to format. So the format is so you go to payments, So the format is actually the file that links back to the actual output. So, so you're saying that what's the format of the output of the payment? So if I go into, I'm going to duplicate this tab and I'll show you something once that opens up. But let's go to manage formats. Still opening. So manage formats. I'm going to create my own format. So the output file is going to be a BI publisher file. So I want to show you that BI publisher file. So there are different formats. Actually, so these are all the different formats that you have within payments. The one we want to create is a disbursement file format. So these are all different formats. We want to create one called disbursement file format. Oracle have already created all of these formats for us. So these are the available formats. So what we're going to do now, we're going to create a format that we want to use for electronic payments. So while that's loading, I'm going to go to the tools, reports, and analytics. I just want to show you how that format is built. And then we're going to create payment file format. So inside that format, there's a template. So this template is being called from BI Publisher. Should be loaded soon, but I'm going to call mine Acme ISO 20022. So there are different standards for these output formats. Now, your bank will tell you the standard that they comply with. Most of them right now use the ISO 20022. There are other ones like the MT 103, MT 101. Those ones are text files, ISO, XML. There are other formats that have been created now. Some of them are using even things like tokens as an example. So Acme _ ISO 20022. So template that I'm going to use, which is based on the output. So it's an output file, it's an outbound file. So template that I'm going to use is my ISO 20022. I'm going to use one of the ones that already exist. Now, if you want to go the technical routes, then the bank will give you some of the variations within the file, what they're looking for, and then you'll have to build this output file. So your developers will actually build this, or if you are that knowledgeable in XML, then you can also build it yourself. But it's more of a technical role in terms of building the output format. So if I go to reports and analytics, I'll show you the examples once this finishes loading. Still loading. I think it's called ISO. Let's see if there's one called ISO search. might be starting with something else, but it's an ISO format. So still the page is still loading, but let's go back to, right. So this is the one we want to use. So there are different ones, ISO 20220 for SEPA single payments, version 5, version 7. So 2022 is the common standard. Now, this is mainly for international payments, whether it's even in the local currency as well. So most banks are now using the ISO format. So we're using this template, and then there are some predefined validations that you would need for this particular template. Not all templates have predefined validations, but what the validation file does is that it enables certain attributes to be loaded within the Oracle definition phase. So for example, if there's a common gateway interface validation, then you will need to use the CGI validation, and then you specify your payment method for that. It could be by country as well. So it could be, and you could even have a validation number for that. So the payment method that I'm going to select. So basically what you're trying to do, you're trying to load this validation. You're not going to run some of this validation because what we want to do is that because we are not, we're not building the file, we haven't got the specs yet. So what you have here is a template. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to load the validation parts and then use that to validate the file. So I'm going to give it a start date 1/1/23, and I'm going to end it as well. Remember that I just want to load the values for validation. I'm not going to actually use it for validation. And when I say load, I'm loading it at the back end so that when my file is generated, there are certain tags that it would just look at by default. So you've got this. You've also got your initiating party. So you could decide that you want to put in other parameters. So let's give you an example. So you can put in other parameters, like if you want to do some validations, maybe Swedish validation, Swedish SEPA validation. So any type of additional validation, you can actually include them here as well. So again, this is for common gateway implementation validation. So let me just remove this for now. So you have these predefined validations that you have. You've also got user-defined validations. You can also specify some other advanced validation. These are things like maybe you want the username to be entered, for example, as a validation. So if there's no username, the file will fail. So you can put in different kinds of validation in your payment file. So let's save and close. So that's your payment format. Now, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to also create my payment process profile. I'll come back and talk about some of these other ones. I want us to generate the file first, and then I will come back and show you how we need to use these bits as well. It's not mandatory, but it's mandatory for certain types of payment transmissions, which I will talk about later. So what I want to do now is I want to create the payment process profile. And this will help us to understand payment process profile is mandatory. You need to have that. So payment process profile. Let's see if this is just loaded. I'll come back to this. At least I know it's loaded. So with my payment process profile, I'm going to create one. And this is where you have a lot of variations in terms of how the files are grouped together to form a profile. So if you have multiple types of payments, which is what you more probably have, so your client could be paying by wire transfer, it could be by backs, by checks, by SEPA. So you can create a separate payment process profile for each type of payment. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create mine, Acme payment process profile, Acme EPP. I'm going to say starting from the 1st of the 1st, 23. Now, and this is my payment file format. So I'm saying that the file format for this, the output for this file that's going to be generated should be my Acme. Remember that is linking into an XML file. So this is my, let me go to the XML output file so you'll be able to see that. So my output file, if I go into folders, let's go to financials. This is slightly bigger. Financials, and then I want to go to payments. So under payments, I then have my file format. So this is my disbursement payment file format. So every file format that you see that is generated will be generated based upon this output file. So let's go into this and show you the output. So the output could be a text file, it could be XML, it could be e-text, and so on. So when I create my payment process profile, I'm linking my payment file format with the output of what will be generated when I run the program. So what I'm going to do now, processing time, let's make it electronic. If it's printed, it could be a check that is printed, but most payments now are electronic. And then you want, at what point do you want the payment to be confirmed? When the payment file is formatted, when, you know, you could say you want manual, or when the payment file is transmitted. So there are 2 points. The transmission is the other one that I'm going to talk to you about later, but let's go to the formatted one first. You can specify the payment methods that you want. So this could be some of the payment methods that you've created. Could be using some of the other ones like electronic, EFT, so on and so forth. You could specify that this is going to be used by specific bank accounts or specific business units or currencies. You could do that. Payment system is mainly used for the transmission. So I'm going to talk about that later, but let me see if I can show you. So these are all the different output formats. Let me view this as a list. And let's look at some of the ISO 20. So you can see that some of them are text output, some of them are PDF if they're checks. These ones are, this actually should be XML, not HTML. So that's the output file going out as XML output. So these are mainly electronic. So what would happen is that you will extract this file and give it to a developer. They will develop this based upon the specifications from the bank. And then you will then load this back in here and then run your payments. Some of them are RTF, these are e-text output files. Some of them are pure text files. So there are different output formats. We're going to run this payment. We're going to see what it's going to look like when we actually generate this output file. So so payment system, again, we'll talk about that if we have time later. Payment, again, you have groupings for your payments. You know, how do you want to group your documents by bank, charge bearer, settlement priority, and so on. Your payment file, how is the file going to be generated? Do you want, you know, this, again, some of this will be attributes inside your payment file. You could have maybe some output format. If you're going to be transmitting this file somewhere, then this could be where the file extension could be a .tmp, whatever output format that they want, and also the prefix. how the file is grouped, your payment files. So you can group your payments by date, by bank account, by charge bearer, and so on. Again, the reporting. Reporting are some of the outbound files, things like your separate remittance advice. So there are some that are already there. You can use the existing format or create yours. You could say the delivery method of this is by email, and then you have the email address of the supplier, and that will go to them. Condition could be maybe all payments, number of documents. Again, you've got all these other options. But options for positive pay, again, these are the output formats and also payment file register. So I'm going to save and close. That's my payment process profile. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create some invoices which are going to be ready for payment. So let me use Postman to create invoice. I think it's probably going to be a lot quicker than creating one manually. So let me open up Postman, AP invoice. Okay, let me make this 102. I'm going to make it for 10,000. Put in the account details. Remember that you need to put in the username, password in here, and then save this. Remember the URL. That's the URL I'm using right now. Send. So that should create my invoice. Let's go back into my Payables. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my payment process profile to create that payment. But I'm going to also use the payments rather than doing it as a quick payment. I'll use the grouping. So still sending this request. So that means that there is something. I thought that would have finished by now. So let's refresh this. Oh, that's it. It's done. It's not validated. So this is my. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to validate this. Let's validate this from here. Then, okay, that's done. So let's go into payments. So that's validated. Let me open up the invoice so you see the invoice. It's here. It's just saved. There should be a tick box here to tell you that it's saved. I'm not sure whether that's saved or not. There you go, saving. And then you see a tick box to say that it's saved. So this is my invoice still trying to load. I am going to, my payment process profile is created. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go to payments. And that should be ready for payment. This one should be ready for payment. So I could pay in full from here, but I don't want to do that. I want to pay in full from the normal place. So let me post to ledger. And let me go into payments, run this as proper payment. Where's my posting? Is it posted? So we're in payments. So what I'm going to do, is run submit a payment process request. Now, what you could do is create a template. You could actually create a template, payment process request template. You could create a template, and that will be normally a functional role where you go in and create that. But what I'm just going to submit a payment process request, and I'm going to run through what you would normally do at the end of a period when you are running your payments. So you would give your payment batch a name. Let me call it Acme 2303 27-001. So you got your pay through date. So it's going to look at invoices that are due up to a certain date. So I didn't check my due date on my invoices. So terms date. So it's unpaid. It's still showing as unaccounted. I want it to be accounted so that I can see the clearing account and so on. So terms date is immediate. So this is due immediately. I expect this to be picked up by my payment run. So what would happen is that your pay through date will look at dates that is due up until a certain date. Let me just put it onto maybe the end of the month. So that will pick up whatever is due up until the end of the month. Pay from date, payment priority, date basis. You can early settle invoices. You can include zero amounts, no. And just to make my life a lot easier, I'm just going to select anything due from lease supplies. And I am going to, so it's going to bring back anything that's due from lease supplies. Could, if I wanted to, put an invoice group here so that I can limit it so that it only picks up this invoice. So let's do that. Acme 001. So I don't want it to pick up any other. Let's save this. So I'm hoping it's not too late to do that, but that's, I could have put that in my Postman. So invoice group, need to find Acme 001 here. Not yet. Okay. Save, close. Sure. Find it because this page is already loaded. Oh yes, found it. Okay, Acme 001. So that's it will only pick up invoices that are in that group. You have other things you can use. You can use your payment method, and stuff like that. So let's go to our payment and processing options. So here I'm going to select my payment process profile. My disbursement bank account is going to be my Acme Bank of America. My payment document, I don't have one, so I don't need to select one. So, but I have a payment process profile, which is my Acme payment process profile. I have other options when making my payment. I can say that I want to review the installments before making the payment. I can say that I wanted to create my payment files immediately, or even review proposed payments. So there are options. If you're using approvals, then you can specify the approvals as well. And then you wanted to reject or stop all process for review if there's an error, sort of validation failure. So these are my attributes for my search, to search for payments that are due. So let's submit. So I expect this to only select one invoice, which is the invoice that we have now. Let's see what will happen. Save and close. But I haven't actually. Okay, I'm not running then normally what happens is that at the bottom, you can view your schedule request, and that will show you the progress of your payment run. So that is initiated, is ready. Let's put it into hierarchy mode so I can see just the ones that relate to the process I'm running. And going to refresh this, so that would tell me ones that are requiring attention. If it's terminated, then it'll just go in here immediately. Let's have a look. So, okay, so it's actually created the, there's something all right on the server, because, okay, this is interesting. This is just, my create account is in ready mode, it's not even running yet. So let's find out what's going on. Payment process request. Still ready. Okay. What I will do, time will not permit us to complete all of this. But essentially, when you want to transmit the payment out, you would have to set up a transmission protocol. And this is where you would need your payment system. So your payment system will indicate how you want to transmit the payment out. So in your payment process profile, you will specify your transmission method. So let me just go into payment process profile. And that's basically why you would need a transmission method. So you can put in your FTP server details, and the file will go straight into that server, into that file location. And the bank will pull that information from that server. So that's basically how it works. So your bank will just, it could be that at a particular time on a daily basis, it will go into that folder, that SFTP folder, and it will kind of extract that file. And in terms of the flow of what happens from the issue payments perspective, invoice is entered and validated. Next thing that happens is that you have your selected invoice. You select the invoice for payments, and then you submit the payment process request, which is what we've done. And at that point, you will assign the disbursement bank, payment process profile, and any document payable. And then first thing that happens is that there's a validation of the document payable. And then it would then go on to build the files into payments, and then validate the proposed payment. And then at that point, it will view or modify the payments. And then from there, if it's okay, you can then go in and do the review. If it's not, then it goes into the build. And then review. Okay, sorry. If you don't want to review, then it just goes straight to build. If you want to review, then you can then, if the payments need to be modified, then it goes back into this queue. If not, it then goes out into building your payments. And then after that, you can then validate the payment file. So the first one is validate your proposed payment. You then validate the payment file. So that's the point we're in right here, which seems to be stuck at some point. So let me just do a refresh, see what's happening. If not, what I can do is do a manual one. I just wanted to see that file. Let me create manual pay. I think Oracle servers are overloaded. 003, let's send this one. Show why it's slow. So once it validates the payment, which is the next phase, it then goes on to create the file, the data file. And then depending on the format, if it's printed, it prints the check and the positive pay file. If it's electronic, it sends the file to the bank. So that's the transmission of the file to the bank. So on most projects, that's basically where the route that would normally happen. Checks are being phased out now, but there are other types of payments that are also coming up. So watch out for that space. There are, let's just see what is happening here. The invoice is created here, then what I would probably do is just, yeah, so I've got the invoice here. I'll just run a manual one here to show you what it looks like. Payments, let's see, are you moving forward? You're still in the ready mode. Let's go for the refresh again. Going to validate. And I'm going to just pay this once. As a manual payment. So for some reason, all the processes seems to be stuck. They're not moving for some reason in this environment. Yeah, it's still in the ready mode. Something's going on there. So, oh, needs revalidation. Interesting. Why does this need revalidation? Okay, I think it thinks is a duplicate invoice. Interesting. So while we're waiting for that, has anyone got any questions? Any questions, anyone? Actually, let me just make this.
Does that mean that because we crashed, all the data things that we did is all gone? So we got to start from scratch?
Possibly. I'm trying to get Oracle to find a way of getting that back, because the what they've done is if somebody, I think somebody must have raised an SR, and if you do that, they just wipe the environment. That's just what they do. So I think that's what they've done. I tried to log in Sunday morning, just for about an hour. I just left it. I'm talking about the very early hours in the morning. Came back, it was still non-operative. So I just concluded that there was something wrong with it. So apologies for that. But it's not the end of the world. There is a way in which we can redeem it. So we might as well just go for that. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully that should, I'm just trying to, I'll try and find out what I can do. But at the moment, they are not even responding.
Hi, Yemi.
Hi, yeah.
I just want to verify with you. You know the file, the batch file for the payment that is
Yes.
forwarded to the bank.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that MT 101 or 103 format?
Well, it could be 101, it could be 103, depending on the bank, you know, but
I'm just looking in terms of the exercise we just done now. I'm just trying to find out what.
Oh no. The one I'm doing now is a is not an MT format, is an ISO format.
ISO, okay.
XML, yeah, it's an XML.
XML, okay.
Yeah, it's an XML format, yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah. So XML ISO 20022 is the common one that you will find. There might be different variations of it, but companies are moving away from the MT 101, MT 103 formats. You still find them, but they, I mean, the in terms of the requirements, it's still going to be the same. It's just that if you're technical, then you need to know how to build the MT 101 and MT 103. I'm going to look at, when we look at cash management, I will show you an example of a text output that you need to build for that purpose. Similar to the empties, the empty files. I'll give you an example. So for this manual one, let me just show you this. So that's the Acme Bank of America payment process profile, our Acme one that we've created. So I'm going to submit this. This should create, this is going to effectively run the same process that we're trying to run, but you wouldn't normally make payments this way. You would normally go in and run a payment batch, as we've done here. And you can actually automate this so that you create this as an ESS job and you run this maybe every week, depending on your payment run that business has. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So let's find out if this is finished running. Okay, that's created the payment. So because this is instant, it creates it immediately. So let me show you what the output file looks like. It's still saving. Wow. Hope this environment too hasn't crashed. See, it's now in this wait mode. So let's refresh this, see if it's giving us the next step. So let me go to the output file, tools, scheduled processes. Any other questions?
Hi, Yemi.
Hi.
I need to ask, with this current status of our environment, so what's the way forward regarding, I don't know, will you let us know whether the old environment is redundant, and so therefore we need to start with the new environment, or, you know?
I will let you know, but if I look at the past, what they've done in the past, then I would say that we need to start in a new environment. But if you are looking at building the for these labs, you don't actually need to start from scratch. So all you're doing is you're just starting from using US1, because that's already there. So all you're doing is just building payments for it. So you just need to create invoices and then build your payment file. Now, for the previous labs, for example, if you're going to be creating all the stuff that we did last week, you can still, it depends on where you are in your setup. But for the week 1, you'd have to do week 1 again. Week 2, you can still use this new environment from a point rather than starting from scratch. Yeah, but whatever environment, I'll make sure that the environment is available for you for another 2 weeks or so. Yeah.
So is it going to be this environment, or are you going to confirm if it's going to be this environment?
Yes, I'll confirm whether it's going to be this environment. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
I'll do that later on today. I'm just waiting for them. They gave me this environment as a temporary one, but
Okay.
still, I'm not too happy with the performance of it because it's very, very slow. Still trying to build the output file of what that is generated. So there is something not quite right with this environment. Yeah, I mean, the stuff that we've just done is almost instantly that you get the output. But,
Might be they're on strike or something.
Oracle server outage. You probably get it on Twitter, or something like that. Oh, okay. So it's done. It's done the first stage. Wow. So that's the first stage that is done. And it's picked up one as we expected. So if I click on this, you'll be able to see the output. So that's the one that we expected it to pick up for this invoice number. So if you're happy with that, just click on submit. You can still remove payments from this at this stage, yeah. But let's have a look. Let's have a look. Even the one I ran manually is not loading. And I've worked on environments before where I've had 5 or 6 tabs open and doing different things in different areas of the application. This one is just, it's still saying it's still saving this. Maybe we've overloaded it. I'm not sure if, let's see what's going on. Let's see. So any other questions? Anyone on payments? There's one thing I want to say about payments. It's one of those areas that no matter which project you go on, you will still find that there is always a requirement for payments. And not many people want to get into the building of the payment files. If you're technical, is an area where you can look at. If you're very good with XML or doing some coding, then maybe it's one of those areas that you can look at. That's if you're technical. And then it will give you an edge, even as a functional consultant, to know about how payment works. Any other questions? I'm just keen to see the XML output file. Wow. Bill payments is saying it's ready. It hasn't even started to run it yet. So even the one that we did earlier on, I'm not sure if this is already done. So let's come out of this and open another tab. So in terms of the lab for today, the exercise for today, let's go into today is day 16. I have all these steps I will definitely get you an environment before the end of today. And then this is the bits that we need to do for today from a lab perspective. This check. Running. See. It's now in status pending. Okay. It's very slow. It's even slower than the environment that we had before this. So if bill payments is waiting, then that's waiting for over a few minutes just to run. Initiate payment process request. Okay, I think this was the other one that we did. Let's just check. View output. Okay, there should be the build payment files. Check to see if it's the file. All right, that's the file. So, okay, let me just open this. Have application that I can use to open XML files. File. So that's the file that that's the one that we run. So this is an example of the XML file. The amount, legal entity, well, the entity, the date, the bank. This is the bank. Remember, we created a bank. That's the bank. Number, Bank of America, lease supplies, and so all this information. So that's the invoice number that we created. And the bank will look at this and then use this to create that payment. So this is an example of the XML output file. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, so when the bank gets the output file, do they have like a program that would pick out the right information that they need to?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's basically what they would do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions? Okay, there's some questions in the chat. Can I follow up regarding what SQL editor users would have? All right, okay. There isn't a standard SQL editor. When we looked at reporting, that was mainly the method that most people would use to interrogate the database. There are some free ones online. I think you can do a search. And you can also, yeah. Yeah, so there's some free ones online. Yeah, so I'm not really aware of any standard one like Toad and so on. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions for today's session? So hopefully by tomorrow this will have finished running. Let's see. It's still in bill payments. So if there are no questions, then I believe we can finish for today and then have a look at the assignments. I will take you through Oh, okay. It's just running. It's actually just running our create accounting that we sent earlier on. So there's something really wrong in this environment. It's really slow in picking up things that it needs to do. Okay. So thank you very much for today's session. Then, oh, there's a hand up. Sorry, Bella. Sorry, I just saw your hand up now. Sorry.
Yes, sorry. I joined very, very late. I thought it was going to start at 12 my time. But how soon are you going to upload this video, the recording?
Yeah, I'll do that this evening. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So that I can look at it.
Yeah.
Most part of the class.
No, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thanks.
hi, Yemi.
Hi.
Sorry, didn't we start for 6?
No, we started at 5 o'clock.
No, I mean Nigerian time, 6. 5.
Nigerian time. We started at GMT.
We are in the same time with Nigeria now, isn't it?
We are
We're at the same time
so
with
it's
Nigeria now. Yes.
Oh,
yes.
5
so
is 5, 6 is 6.
Yeah.
Oh,
Same time with
before now-
Nigeria.
You say what? Hello?
We're at
Yeah.
the same time with Nigeria now.
Yeah, because last week I've been joining for 6, so I was surprised today joining and it's already late.
Oh, apologies. Yeah.
The clock went forward on Sunday, so we are on the same standard time with the
I
Britain.
didn't know.
Okay. Apologies. Yeah. Apologies.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right. So what was my question now?
Don't worry. I'll send the video so you can view it. Yeah.
Okay, so is the application up now?
No, it's not. So that's what I was saying, that I'll give you guys another environment that we can use. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. So thank you very much, and see you all tomorrow at 5 o'clock UK time, which is GMT +1.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.